My 32-year-old female, brother Carl, 27-year-old male, was spoiled for 8 years because he almost died. The short version, he was very sick and spent months at a time in the hospital as a kid, and both my parents and extended family gave him everything he wanted because he wasn't expected to live past 9 years old. Medical science did save his life, but it took a couple of years for everyone to stop spoiling him. My father admitted it was just habit, but once he realized the negative impact it had on me and the entitlement of Carl, things changed immediately. My mother is to this day the only holdout. Obviously, Carl hated that he was being told no for anything. Everyone expected him to adjust over time, but he never did. He even told a therapist that he'd never cooperate because he was right and everyone else is wrong. Carl is extremely intelligent, but he's lazy and arrogant. He had to repeat senior year of high school because he refused to do any work. He refused to go to the community college because he believed that he knew more than the professors. He refused to get a job until he was 24 years old because he felt that all jobs short of CEO were beneath him. Whenever my dad tried to do something about this attitude, like taking away my dad's credit card so Carl could no longer just buy takeout every day, my mother immediately undermined my dad. Carl doesn't cook or clean, he doesn't pay rent, and over the last 5 years, he started viewing women as subservient to men. It's caused massive damage to his relationship with my dad. Carl still lives with my dad, and when I visit, we occasionally talk. Last time I visited, Carl complained that every girl he's taken out has ghosted him. I asked for information on the dates, where they went, what they talked about, etc. And he mentioned they get weird as soon as he says his life plan is to inherit my dad's house and have his wife be a stay-at-home wife while he works. I told him that might be because he's 27 and making minimum wage. His plan is to never actually be an adult. My dad also told him that if he passed, I'd inherit the house because I know how to pay bills. I said I'd have to charge Carl rent if he stayed or I'd have to move in. Carl said that ruined his life plan because he was supposed to get everything since I'm getting married and my husband should control me. I snapped. I told him the reason he's getting ghosted is because he's pathetic, a walking red flag, and no woman disrespects themselves enough to be with a loser like him. He started screaming that I'm an AH. My dad understands that what I said is true, but that I should have been less blunt. My mother keeps calling to demand I apologize for insulting Carl. I do want him to change and grow, so I feel I was wrong in calling him a loser and pathetic. I stand by the red flag part firmly. Am I the idiot? ETA. Some info I didn't think to include. My parents are separated. Mom lives 150 miles away with her sisters. I live with bipolar disorder, and my father and I have tried getting Carl to just get evaluated or speak to a doctor, but he says he's not defective like I am. The only reason my dad hasn't given Carl the boot is because he did get a job when Dad threatened to kick him out if he didn't. My dad even set up an account for Carl for his savings, the goal being that he saves enough to get an apartment and have a cushion, and Dad has access to it. He will only start charging rent if Carl blows his savings on a non-emergency. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You should tell your mother to practice what Carl is preaching. She should not talk or have an opinion and let her husband control her. What makes her any different than the other women that her son preys on? Not the idiot. Your brother is a little piss baby. It's not that he won't grow up. It's because he's still expecting to suck at his mother's teat and have everything handed to him. Kudos to your dad, though. Sounds like he's correcting himself very well. And kudos to you. Comment 2. Not the idiot. Your brother is an incel, and it's a miracle that he hasn't hurt anyone yet. Your brother should be grateful that he survived his childhood illness and instead believes he's owed everything. When you do inherit the house, make sure you have the eviction papers ready to go and the new locks available to replace the current ones. If your mother is so worried about your brother, then she can continue to support him. Now for the update, thanks for sticking around for the latest scoop. So my brother Carl's been at it again. Remember how Dad was trying to get him to save up for his own place? Well, turns out Carl had other plans. He's been secretly funneling money from that savings account into some sketchy online investment scheme. Dad found out when he got a call from the bank about suspicious activity. The account was nearly drained. Dad was furious, and I mean, who wouldn't be? He confronted Carl, and guess what? Carl actually had the nerve to blame Dad for not teaching him about finances. But wait, it gets worse. Dad had finally had enough and told Carl he had a month to move out. Carl begged, threw tantrums, the whole 9 yards. But Dad stood his ground. That's when Mom stepped in. She drove all the way from her sister's place to have a family meeting. And here's the kicker. She sided with Carl, said Dad and I were being too harsh and that Carl just needed more time and support. I couldn't believe it. After all the years of Carl's laziness and arrogance, she was still babying him. Dad and I were on the same page, thinking it was high time Carl learned some responsibility. But Mom, she was ready to coddle him like he was still that sick little boy in the hospital. Now let's talk about Carl's job. He's been working at this local electronics store, right? Barely scraping by on minimum wage. But he's been telling everyone he's up for a big promotion. Turns out that was a lie. His boss told Dad that Carl's work ethic is non-existent. He's late, does the bare minimum, and has been caught bad-mouthing customers. So much for that promotion. And the girls he's been dating? I did some digging. He's been telling them he's an entrepreneur and that he's got this grand business plan. But when they see the reality, him living at Dad's, no real job, no ambition, they bolt. Can't say I blame them. Dad's been trying to get through to Carl, even offered to help him with a budget or look for a better job. But Carl? He just scoffs and says he's got it all under control. It's like talking to a brick wall. The tension at home has been through the roof. Dad's been sleeping in the guest room because he can't stand being around Carl. And me? I've been avoiding visiting because I just can't handle the drama. It's like every time I think Carl might be taking a step forward, he does something to prove he's still the same entitled kid he's always been. But here's the real shocker. Last week, Dad's health took a turn for the worse. He had a minor heart attack. Scared the life out of me. Carl? He seemed more worried about who would take care of him if Dad was out of commission. I was at the hospital every day, but Carl only showed up when he wanted money for food. Thankfully, Dad's on the mend. But that scare put things into perspective for him. He's been updating his will, and he's decided that I'll be the executor. He's also setting up a trust that Carl can't touch unless he meets certain conditions, like holding down a job for more than a year. Dad says it's tough love, but it's the only way Carl might ever stand on his own 2 feet. So that's where we're at. Carl's on thin ice, Mom's in denial, and Dad's trying to secure his legacy while teaching Carl a lesson. It's a mess, but maybe, just maybe, it'll be the wake-up call Carl needs. Thanks for reading. My best friend envied my freedom while stuck in a loveless marriage. So when she tried to sabotage my solo trip, I exposed her secret conversations with her ex and watched her perfect life crumble. My best friend Mia and I, both 32-year-old females, have known each other since we were 12, but only became close at university. We're different in many ways, like our views on marriage and kids. I never want to get married or have kids. Mia has had her wedding planned since she was 10 and always told everyone that she'll be married by 27, travel for a year before having her first child by the time she turned 30. Mia always tells me I'll change my mind one day. She brings it up often, and it's annoying. Backstory. In 2015, Mia reconnected with an old classmate on Facebook, Pete, from our home country, and they started dating long distance. 4 months later, she visited Pete and told everyone they were engaged. I asked her if she was sure, and she said they were in love and can't wait to be married so she can sponsor him and be together in the same country. I'm ashamed to say my first thought after she told me was that he was using her to get a green card. Their wedding was planned for summer 2016, but in early 2016, it was revealed Pete had been cheating with his ex, and she had DM'd Mia pictures, screenshots of their texts, because she found out about the wedding and felt guilty. Mia confronted him, and they argued for hours with him, admitting he was using her for a green card and would have divorced her later. In 2018, Mia again reconnected with another classmate, Jay. So Mia, Jay, and Pete all went to primary school together, and Jay and Pete are friends, and Jay knows about what happened. Mia and Jay got married in our home country in late 2019, and I was her maid of honor. The immigration process got delayed because of infection 19, but Mia and Jay were finally reunited in 2021. Months later, she announced she was pregnant and gave birth to a boy in February 2022. Everything was moving super fast, but Mia was happy to be a mom at 30. I recently started a new remote job that gives me a lot of freedom, so I decided I would solo travel. I have a close group of friends, and we do a weekly girls' night. Mia gave birth again in October and haven't been able to join us, so last week she invited us to her house for dinner. During dinner, a friend asked me about my travel plans. At this point, only this friend knew. When the others found out, they were happy for me. Mia was quiet and seemed annoyed. One friend said she was envious of me and wishes she could do the same. Mia scoffed and said anyone could do it if they were irresponsible. It got quiet and I just stared at Mia. I asked her what she meant. I said I'm spending my own money and I'll still be working. So how am I irresponsible? She said I haven't grown up yet and only wanted to have fun when I should be settling down. I told her I don't want to settle down, and just because I'm not married with kids doesn't mean I'm not a grown-up. She said my life is meaningless, so I said, at least I'm not desperate enough to fly to a different country and marry the first guy I saw. I think I'm the AH for basically throwing the whole Pete thing in her face, knowing how hurt she was. Am I the idiot? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, not the idiot. It's amazing people are talking about how she belittled Mia and was needlessly cruel when Mia literally told OP her entire life is meaningless because she doesn't have a man and children, for the sin of talking about upcoming travel. If that's not needlessly cruel and bitchy, I don't know what is. It's clear though, based on this, you aren't BFFs, and it would be weird to continue this friendship. Comment 2, everyone sucks here. Mia brought it on herself with jealousy-induced comments, but you dug in deep to hurt her back. Are you sure you two are friends? Edit. Your title is a bit misleading. You didn't say she settled. You said she was desperate, and you dismissed any possibility of real feelings in her relationship. That comment was equally hurtful to her partner if he was present. Now, for the update, thank you for joining me again. So last week was a mess. After that blowout with Mia, things went from bad to worse. I thought we'd cool off, but nope. She's been giving me the silent treatment ever since. It's like we're back in high school, not two grown women with over 2 decades of friendship. Anyway, I had to focus on work, which was a welcome distraction. But then out of nowhere, Jay calls me. Yeah, Mia's husband. He never calls, so I knew it was serious. He said Mia's been a wreck since our fight, and he's worried about her. He asked if we could talk and sort things out. I agreed, feeling a mix of guilt and frustration. I went over to their place on Tuesday. Mia was there looking like she hadn't slept in days. It was awkward at first, but we started talking. She admitted she was jealous of my freedom and felt trapped sometimes. She loves her kids, but she missed her old life too. It hit me then how much pressure she's been under, trying to live up to this perfect life she's always talked about. I apologized for what I said. It was low and I knew it. Mia apologized too for calling me irresponsible. We both cried. It was a whole thing. We ended up laughing about how ridiculous we were acting. But then, as we were making up, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Pete. My heart sank. Why was he contacting her after all this time? Mia looked like she'd seen a ghost. She showed me the message. Pete was apologizing, saying he'd changed and wanted to be friends again. Mia was shaking. She said she hadn't talked to him since the breakup and didn't know what to do. I told her to ignore him. That guy brought nothing but trouble. But she hesitated, and I saw that old conflict in her eyes. She still had feelings for him, buried deep down. It made me angry, but I tried to stay calm. I reminded her of how much he hurt her and that she had a good life now with Jay and the kids. She nodded, but I could tell she was still torn. I left their house feeling uneasy. I didn't like the idea of Pete worming his way back into her life. The next day, Mia called me. She said she'd blocked Pete and wanted to focus on her family. I was relieved, but I could hear the doubt in her voice. I just hope she made the right choice. So that's where we're at. Mia and I are talking again, but there's this new tension between us. I'm trying to be supportive, but it's hard. I'm still planning my solo trip, but now I'm worried about leaving Mia in this state. Thanks for reading. My sister hates my autistic kids and skipped my 40th. So I skipped her party and helped her daughters move out. Instead, my sister doesn't particularly like 2 of my children. They are 8 and 10 years old, have autism, and are high energy. But they are great kids. I don't just say that because they are mine. They are exceptional students, excel in their musical sport hobbies, and are well liked by everyone. No one else in the family has an issue with them, and we recently attended a formal sit-down dinner and dance for my grandmother's 80th birthday with zero issues. When they were younger, I refused to set them up for failure and avoided fancy restaurants or other places not appropriate for high-energy kids. So we did miss my sister's 40th, as I had newly separated from my ex-husband, had a newborn via cesarean, and wasn't sure that I could cope with the kids in that setting. But I was relying on others to drive us there, so I couldn't just leave if needed. Plus, it was a per-head buffet and would have been a waste to leave before eating. I believe she is still salty about that 6 years later. There will be other children at this party, around 20 of them ranging from 11 down to newborn. My nieces invited me, and then my sister changed dates, so it's no longer on my kid-free weekend. She then contacted me saying, "You will have to get a babysitter for those two." My other children are invited, 19, 13, 6 years old. They are hiring a hall, cooking a BBQ dinner, and having a local band play, so it's very family-friendly. I've booked a holiday overseas instead for myself and the kids, and we will be there instead. I'll send the girls some cash as presents, and they are both moving to the city where I now live for university next year. So I'll help them move and fill their pantries as a housewarming gift, which I did for my oldest child as well. Now my sister is complaining that I'm going on holiday rather than the party. So am I the idiot for not taking some of my children to the party and getting a babysitter for two of them? Edit to clarify. When they were younger, they struggled to sit still in a noisy public setting for longer than about an hour. They would eat and then do coloring or Lego or puzzles, whatever I'd packed, until I finished eating. Then I would take them for a walk outside with my now ex-husband or my parents taking turns to walk with them outside. Pretty age appropriate for a 2-year-old and 4-year-old, but my nieces who are older would sit for hours with their iPads while my sister chatted in a cafe. Now they still need a decent amount of physical activity. It's 2 p.m. here, and they have been on the trampoline, ridden scooters in the driveway with my youngest niece. We are at my younger sister's house and played some basketball in the backyard. I could give them screens, but they struggle to sleep if they sit around too long, and I prefer to interact and socialize during meals. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot, but I'd make it crystal clear to the nieces that you would love to be there, but that your sister's exclusion of 2 of your 5 children made that impossible. I would also organize a catch-up/future celebration date together. Comment 2. Info. What do you mean by high energy? Because depending on the parent, that could be as minor as slightly raised voices when excited to as major as wrestling in public. And my vote could vary wildly depending on that. Now for the update, thanks for the comments on my last post. Things have taken a turn for the worse since then. Just 3 days ago, my sister's attitude towards my kids escalated. She showed up unannounced, which already put me on edge. She had a list of reasons why my kids shouldn't come to the party, saying they'd be a distraction and that other guests had concerns. I was stunned. Who complains about kids at a family BBQ? The next day I got a call from my parents. They were caught in the middle, wanting to support me, but also trying to keep the peace with my sister. They suggested a compromise. I should attend the party for a short time with all my kids, then leave early. I felt torn. I didn't want to cause a rift, but I also didn't want to subject my kids to a place where they weren't wanted. Yesterday, the situation blew up. My 13-year-old overheard me arguing with my sister on the phone and later confessed that she felt rejected by her aunt. My heart broke. I had tried to shield them from the drama, but kids pick up on these things. I had to make a decision. I chose to stick to my original plan and go on the holiday. But then my ex-husband called. He had heard about the party drama and offered to take the kids for the weekend so they could attend. I was against it, but my oldest convinced me it was important for family unity. I reluctantly agreed. Today, I got a text from my sister. She had heard about the change of plans and was furious that I was dumping my responsibilities on my ex. She accused me of trying to ruin her children's party. I was at a loss. No matter what I did, it seemed to be the wrong choice. The party is tomorrow, and I'm dreading the aftermath. I'm going on the holiday, but I can't shake the feeling that I've let my kids down by not standing up to my sister more firmly. It's a mess, and I'm just hoping that my decision doesn't cause lasting damage to my family relationships. Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.